The station called Velar 9 floated in the cold darkness of space like a metal city among the stars. Thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds lived there together. They traded goods. They made deals. They followed the rules of the Galactic Commerce Union, the great power that controlled trade across the galaxy. Kang Do-yun was a human. He was 34 years old and he worked as a mechanic on the station. His job was to fix ships, to repair engines, to make broken things work again. His hands were always dirty with grease and oil. His clothes were old and worn. He was not rich. He was not powerful. He was just a simple man trying to survive in a universe that did not care about simple men. But Do-yun had something that made him different from most humans on the station. He had children. Not one child. Not two children. He had 17 children living with him in the old cargo bay that he had turned into a home. None of them were his by blood. He had found each one of them over the past 5 years. Some came from ships that crashed. Some came from colonies that died. Some came from parents who could not care for them anymore. The galaxy was a hard place, and it created many orphans. Most species did not care about orphans. They left them to die or sold them for work. But Do-yun could not do that. Every time he saw a child alone and afraid, something inside him broke. So he took them in, one by one, year by year, until his small home was full of sleeping mats and toys made from scrap metal and the sound of children laughing. The oldest was Yuna. She was 12 years old and she had been with Do-yun the longest. Her parents died when pirates attacked their transport ship. Do-yun found her hiding in a storage container, hungry and scared. Now she helped him take care of the younger ones. She was smart and brave, and she watched over the other children like a mother would. Tiho was 10. He was a quiet boy who did not talk much. His family had lived on a farming colony that was destroyed by a disease. He was the only one who survived. He had nightmares sometimes, and Do-yun would sit with him until he fell asleep again. Little Hana was 7. She loved to sing. Even in the dark metal corridors of the station, even when there was not enough food, she would sing soft songs that made everyone feel better. Her voice was like a small light in a dark room. And then there was Minyu. He was only 5 years old, the youngest of all the children. He still cried sometimes for his mother, though he could barely remember her face. Do-yun would hold him close and tell him that everything would be okay. These were his children, not by blood but by choice, and Do-yun loved them more than anything in the universe. On that morning, Do-yun was walking through the market section of the station. He needed to buy food for the children. The market was always crowded with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had many arms. Some floated instead of walking. Do-yun had learned to move through them without looking surprised. After 10 years on alien stations, he had seen everything. Then the announcement came. Every speaker on the station crackled to life. Every screen lit up with the symbol of the Galactic Commerce Union. A cold voice spoke in the common language that all species understood. Attention all residents of Velar 9. By order of the Commerce Council, the following decree is now in effect. All unclaimed juvenile life forms must be registered as labor assets within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in immediate enforcement action. Do-yun stopped walking. Around him, the aliens continued shopping. Some nodded their heads. Some made sounds of approval. To them, this was normal. Children without parents were just resources, just things to be used. But Do-yun felt his blood turn cold. Labor assets. They were going to sell orphans as workers, as slaves. His hands began to shake. The bag of food he was carrying fell to the ground. A merchant nearby looked at him with strange eyes but said nothing. Do-yun turned and ran. He ran through the corridors of the station. He pushed past aliens who shouted at him in languages he did not understand. His heart was beating so fast that he could hear it in his ears. His mind was full of one thought: the children, his children. When he reached the cargo bay, he stopped at the door and tried to calm himself. He did not want to scare them. He took 3 deep breaths. Then he opened the door and walked inside. The children were playing. The older ones were teaching the younger ones a game with small stones. Yuna looked up when Do-yeon entered. She always knew when something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked. Do-yeon looked at all of them. 17 faces looking back at him. 17 lives that depended on him. He was just one man. He had no weapons. He had no army. He had no power. But he had 48 hours, and he would use every second of them. "Nothing," he said, forcing himself to smile. "Keep playing. I need to go out again for a little while." Yuna did not believe him. He could see it in her eyes. But she nodded and went back to the game. She trusted him. They all trusted him. Do-yeon stepped back outside and closed the door. He leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel the fear. It was heavy, like a stone on his chest. He was terrified. He did not know what to do. But then he thought about Minyu crying for his mother. He thought about Hana singing in the darkness. He thought about Tiho's nightmares and Yuna's brave smile. The fear did not go away, but something else grew beside it, something stronger. A fire that started small in his chest and began to spread through his whole body. He was only one man, but he was their father, and fathers did not let their children be taken. Do-yeon opened his eyes. He stood up straight. He had 48 hours to do the impossible. He had no plan. He had no help. He had nothing but his own 2 hands and a heart that refused to give up. That would have to be enough. He began to walk, not back to the market, not back to his work. He walked toward the lower levels of the station, where the smugglers lived, where the outcasts hid, where people went when they needed help that the law would not give them. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans were soft and strange, with their attachment to their young. The galaxy did not understand why a human would risk everything for children that were not even his own blood. The galaxy was about to learn. The lower levels of Velar 9 were dark and dirty. The lights here were broken and no one fixed them. The floors were covered with old trash and strange liquids. The air smelled bad, like metal and something rotten. Normal people did not come here, only those who had nowhere else to go. Do-yeon walked through the narrow corridors until he found the door he was looking for. It was an old door with scratches and dents all over it. He knocked 3 times, waited, then knocked 2 more times. The door opened. A face appeared in the gap. It was a human face, young and sharp, with quick eyes that looked at everything at once. "Do-yeon," the man said with surprise, "what are you doing here?" "I need your help, Sunwoo," Do-yeon said. "I need it tonight." Sunwoo opened the door wider. He was younger than Do-yeon, maybe 28 years old. He wore a leather jacket that had seen better days. He was a smuggler. He moved things across space that other people did not want moved. It was dangerous work, but Sunwoo was good at it. 3 years ago, Sunwoo's ship had broken down in the middle of nowhere. He would have died if Do-yeon had not found him and fixed his engine. Sunwoo had promised to repay that debt someday. Now Do-yeon was here to collect. They sat in Sunwoo's small room. Do-yeon told him everything. The decree, the children, the 48 hours. Sunwoo listened without saying a word. When Do-yeon finished, Sunwoo let out a long breath. "You want to steal 17 children from under the noses of the Veth," Sunwoo said. "You know the Veth, right? The big bug soldiers that break bones first and ask questions never." "I know," Do-yeon said. "And you want to run from the Commerce Union, the biggest power in this half of the galaxy." "I know. And you want to do this in less than 2 days." "Yes." Sunwoo stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who knew he was about to do something very stupid. "Okay," Sunwoo said. "I must be crazy, but okay. My ship can hold all of you, but we need more help. We need someone who knows the station systems." Do-yeon had already thought of this. "I know someone," he said. Her name was Bora. She used to work for the Commerce Union as a scientist. She designed security systems for stations like this one. But 5 years ago, she refused to do something the Union ordered. Something that would hurt innocent people. So they threw her out. Now she lived on the edges of the station, selling her skills to anyone who would pay. Do-yeon found her in a small workshop full of wires and screens. She was a woman in her 40s with short gray hair and tired eyes. When Do-yeon explained what he needed, she did not laugh like Sunwoo did. She just listened quietly. "The tracking grid," she said when he finished. "That is the problem. Every person on this station has a chip in their body. The grid knows where everyone is at all times. If you try to move 17 children to the docking bay, the system will see it. The Veth will come." "Can you turn it off?" Do-yeon asked. "For a short time, yes," Bora said. "Maybe 10 minutes, but it will be dangerous. When the grid goes dark, there will be alarms. There will be confusion. You will have to move fast." 10 minutes is enough," Do-yeon said. He was not sure if this was true, but he had to believe it. Bora looked at him with those tired eyes. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "These children are not your blood. You could find a way to save yourself. Why risk death for them?" Do-yeon thought about the question. He thought about Yuna and Tiho and Hana and little Minyu. He thought about the way Minyu held his hand when he was scared. He thought about the way Hana sang even when things were bad. "Because they are mine," he said simply. "Maybe not by blood, but they are mine, and I cannot let them be sold like objects." Bora was quiet for a long moment. Something changed in her eyes, something that looked almost like hope. "I will help you," she said. Now Do-yeon had a pilot and a tech expert, but he knew it was not enough. When they tried to escape, someone would have to stay behind and slow down the Veth. Someone would have to fight so the others could run. There was only one person Do-yeon could ask for this job. Old Junho lived alone in a tiny room near the recycling plants. He was 70 years old and his body was failing. His heart was weak. His lungs were bad. The doctors said he had maybe 6 months left, maybe less. But before he got old, Junho had been a soldier. He had fought in 3 wars. He had survived things that would have killed most men. His hands still knew how to hold a weapon, even if his body was tired. Do-yeon found him sitting in a chair, looking at old pictures on a screen. Pictures of people who had died long ago. Friends, family, soldiers who never came home. "Old man," Do-yeon said gently. Junho looked up. His face was covered with lines and his hair was white, but his eyes were still sharp. "I heard about the decree," Junho said. "I wondered when you would come." Do-yeon sat down beside him. He did not know how to ask what he needed to ask. It felt wrong to ask an old man to give his life, but Junho understood. He had always understood. "You need someone to hold the corridor," Junho said. "Someone to give you time to run." Do-yeon could not speak. His throat was tight. "I am dying anyway," Junho said. He looked back at the pictures on the screen. "I have been waiting for death for months, but dying in a bed alone with no purpose. That is not the death I wanted. Let me die for something. Let me die protecting children." Do-yeon felt tears in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. "Thank you," he whispered. Junho smiled. It was a peaceful smile. "Thank you for giving me this chance." That night Do-yeon went back to the cargo bay. The children were sleeping on their mats, all 17 of them together. Their breathing was soft and slow. They did not know what was coming. They did not know that in less than 2 days their whole world would change. Do-yeon sat in the corner and watched them sleep. He went over the plan in his mind. Bora would shut down the tracking grid at the right moment. He would lead the children through the maintenance tunnels to Bay 7, where Sunwoo's ship would be waiting. Junho would hold the main corridor against the Veth. They would escape into the darkness of space and run until they reached safety. It was a simple plan. It was also impossible. But then something happened. That made everything more difficult. The door opened, and a Veth officer stepped inside. He was tall and covered with hard black shell. His eyes were like dark jewels. His arms ended in sharp claws. He looked around the room at the sleeping children with cold interest. "Routine inspection," he said in a clicking voice. "We are checking all residences for unregistered juveniles." Do-Yun felt his heart stop, but he forced himself to stay calm. "These are my crew," he said. "They are registered, they work on ships with me." The Veth looked at him for a long moment. Then he looked at the children. Little Minyu made a sound in his sleep. Yuna's eyes opened slightly. She saw the Veth and her body went stiff with fear, but she did not move. "We will verify this," the Veth said. "If the records are not correct, we will return." He turned and walked out. Do-Yun stood frozen until the door closed. Then he let out a breath he did not know he was holding. His hands were shaking again. They were running out of time. The Veth were already watching. He looked at Yuna. She was awake now, her eyes full of fear, but she did not cry. She did not scream. She just looked at him and waited. "Tomorrow night," Do-Yun whispered to her. "Be ready, we are leaving." Yuna nodded slowly. She understood. Outside, the station continued its normal life. Merchants sold their goods. Ships came and went. The Veth patrolled the corridors. No one knew that one human was about to challenge the entire system. No one knew that in less than 24 hours, everything would change. Do-Yun sat in the darkness and waited for dawn. The plan was set. The helpers were ready. Now he just had to survive until tomorrow night. It was going to be the longest day of his life. The morning came too fast. Do-Yun had not slept at all. He watched the children wake up one by one. They ate the simple breakfast he had prepared. They talked and laughed like it was any normal day. Only Yuna knew the truth. She helped him pack a small bag with food and water and medicine without the others seeing. "Will we be safe?" she whispered to him. "I will make sure of it," Do-Yun said. He wanted to promise her. He wanted to tell her that nothing bad would happen, but he could not lie to her. "Stay close to me tonight. No matter what happens, keep moving forward." The day passed slowly. Every minute felt like an hour. Do-Yun went through his normal routine. He went to work. He fixed engines. He smiled at the aliens who walked past him. Inside, his heart was racing, but on the outside, he looked calm. When the sun indicator on the station showed evening, everything began. Bora sent him a message on his old communication device. Just one word: ready. Do-Yun left work early and walked back to the cargo bay. He did not run. He did not look scared. Running would make people notice him. He walked like a man going home after a long day. When he reached the cargo bay, he gathered all the children around him. "Listen to me," he said in a calm voice. "Tonight we are going on a trip, a long trip. I need all of you to be very brave and very quiet. Can you do that for me?" The children looked at him with big eyes. Some of them were excited. A trip sounded fun. Others, like Tiho, seemed to understand that something was wrong, but they all nodded. "Yuna will lead you," Do-Yun continued. "Follow her. Do not stop. Do not look back. I will be right behind you." Little Minyu raised his hand like he was in school. "Where are we going?" Do-Yun picked him up and held him close. "Somewhere safe," he said. "Somewhere nobody can hurt you. Do you trust me?" Minyu nodded and put his arms around Do-Yun's neck. At exactly 20 minutes past 7, the lights went out. The whole station went dark. Emergency red lights came on, painting everything in a bloody color. Alarms began to scream. Voices shouted in the distance. Somewhere, metal crashed against metal. Now Do-Yun said, "Move." Yuna grabbed the hands of the two smallest children and started walking. Tiho helped a girl who was scared and crying. Hana began to hum a soft tune to keep the little ones calm. One by one, the children formed a line and followed Yuna into the corridor. Do-Yun took the back. He carried Minyu in one arm. In his other hand, he held a plasma cutter that he had taken from work. It was a tool for cutting metal, not a weapon, but it was all he had. They moved through the maintenance tunnels. These tunnels were not meant for people. They were dark and narrow and full of pipes and wires, but they were also empty. The Veth did not patrol here. Bora had given Doyan a map. Turn left here, turn right there, climb this ladder, crawl through this vent. The children moved as fast as they could. The older ones helped the younger ones. Nobody complained. Nobody cried out loud. 5 minutes passed, then 6, then 7. They were almost at base 7 when the Veth found them. A door burst open behind them. 3 Veth officers ran into the tunnel with weapons ready. Their black shells reflected the red emergency lights. Their eyes glowed with cold fury. "Stop," one of them clicked. "Surrender the juveniles." Doyan pushed Minyu into Yuna's arms. "Go," he said. "Run, do not stop until you reach the ship." But Yuna started. "Go." The children ran. Doyan turned to face the Veth, 3 of them. One of him. They were bigger, stronger, faster. They had armor and weapons. He had a plasma cutter. He attacked anyway. The first Veth did not expect him to charge. It raised its weapon, but Doyan was already too close. He swung the plasma cutter at its arm. The blade cut through shell. The Veth screamed in a clicking sound and stepped back. The second Veth hit Doyan in the chest. It felt like being struck by a ground transport. He flew backward and crashed into the wall. Something cracked in his ribs. Pain exploded through his body. But he got up. The third Veth grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Its claws dug into his skin. Blood ran down his neck. He could not breathe. "Why do you fight?" the Veth asked. "You cannot win. You are one small human." Doyan looked at the Veth with eyes full of fire. He brought up his plasma cutter and drove it into the joint where the Veth's arm met its body. The creature screamed and dropped him. He ran. His ribs were broken. Blood was coming from his neck and his arms. Every step hurt. But he ran because somewhere ahead of him his children were running too. He caught up with them at the entrance to Base 7. Sunwoo's ship was there, a small transport vessel with its engines already glowing. The cargo door was open. Yuna was helping the children climb inside. 11, 12, 13. More Veth were coming. Doyan could hear them behind him. Their feet made clicking sounds on the metal floor. They were getting closer. Then old Junho stepped out of the shadows. He was holding a heavy plasma rifle. It was an old weapon from one of his wars. His hands were steady, even though his body was weak. He smiled at Doyan. "Get the children on the ship," Junho said. "I will hold them here." "Junho, do not argue with me, boy. There is no time." Doyan looked at the old man. He saw peace in his eyes. He saw a man who was ready to die. "Thank you," Doyan whispered. "Go," Junho said, "and tell those children to live good lives." Doyan ran to the ship. 14, 15, 16. He grabbed little Minyu and lifted him inside. 17. The Veth reached the corridor entrance. There were more of them now. 10, 12, too many to count. They saw the ship. They started to run toward it. Junho opened fire. The plasma bolts lit up the bay like small suns. Veth fell. Others took cover. Junho stood in the middle of the corridor like a statue, firing again and again. His old body did not shake. His aim did not miss. "Close the door," Sunwoo shouted from the cockpit. Bora grabbed Doyan and pulled him inside. She hit the button, and the cargo door began to close. Through the shrinking gap, Doyan watched Junho fight. 3 Veth charged him at once. Junho shot 2 of them. The third one reached him. Its claws went through his chest. But even as he fell, Junho kept firing. He took the third Veth with him. The door closed. Doyan could see nothing more. "Hold on," Sunwoo yelled. The ship shook as the docking clamps released. The engines roared. Through the small windows, Do-yun could see the station getting smaller. They were free. Do-yun sat on the floor of the cargo hold. Children surrounded him. Some were crying. Some were silent with shock. Little Minyu was holding his hand so tight it hurt. "Are we safe now?" Hana asked in a small voice. Do-yun pulled her close with his wounded arm. Blood was still dripping from his cuts. His broken ribs made it hard to breathe, but he was alive. They were all alive. "Not yet," he said honestly, "but we will be, I promise." Yuna sat next to him. Her eyes were wet with tears. "The old man," she said, "he died for us." Do-yun nodded. He could not find words. "We will remember him," Yuna said. "We will never forget." Bora walked over with a medical kit. She began to clean Do-yun's wounds. Her hands were gentle but quick. "That was the craziest thing I have ever seen," she said. "You fought 3 Veth with a plasma cutter. You should be dead." "I know," Do-yun said. "Why did you keep fighting? You could not win." Do-yun looked around at the children, at Yuna's brave face, at Tiho's quiet strength, at Hana's gentle smile, at Minyu's trusting eyes. "I was not trying to win," he said. "I was trying to give them time to run. That is all. Every second I kept fighting was one more second for them to escape." Bora was quiet for a moment, then she nodded slowly. "You humans are strange creatures," she said, "but perhaps the galaxy needs more strange creatures like you." The ship flew into the darkness of space. Behind them, the station became just another light among millions. Ahead of them, the unknown waited. But for now, they were together, they were family, and they were free. The escape from Velar 9 should have been forgotten. A small story. A single human running away with some orphans. Nothing important. The galaxy was vast and bigger things happened every day. But someone had been watching. Her name was Kira. She was a young alien journalist from a species called the Pelori. They had large eyes and thin bodies and a strong sense of right and wrong. Kira had been on the station to report on trade deals, boring work that paid her bills. But when she heard about the decree to sell orphans, something changed inside her. She started recording. She recorded the faces of the children in the market, looking scared and confused. She recorded the Veth officers making their lists. She recorded merchants talking about prices for young workers, as if children were just objects to buy and sell. And then she recorded the escape. Kira had placed small cameras throughout the station. She caught everything. She caught Do-yun running through the corridors with blood on his face. She caught the children holding hands as they moved through the dark tunnels. She caught old Junho standing alone against an army, firing until his last breath. She caught the moment when one human father carried a wounded child through a war zone, not stopping even when plasma bolts flew past his head. Kira put all of it together and sent it across the galactic network. Every station, every planet, every ship with a screen. The galaxy watched. At first, many species did not understand what they were seeing. The Marath, who abandoned their weak young, thought the human was insane. Why would anyone risk death for children who were not even related to them? It made no sense. The Pelari, who traded juveniles as a normal business, thought the human was a criminal who deserved to be caught. But other species saw something different. The Terrini, whose families stayed together for life, wept when they watched Junho die. The Corella, who protected their young with fierce devotion, nodded with respect when they saw Do-yun fight 3 Veth with only a tool. Even species that did not have children began to understand that they were watching something special. A parent's love, pure and unconditional, strong enough to break laws and fight armies. The video spread faster than any news story in history. Within hours, it had been viewed by billions. Within days, it had changed everything. On other stations controlled by the Commerce Union, humans began to refuse the decree. They gathered together. They hid their orphans. They said no. On the planet Coria 7, a group of human workers walked out of their factories. They carried signs that showed Do-yun's face. "We will not sell our children," they chanted. "We are not property." On the trade hub Nexus 4, 3 alien species formally protested the orphan decree. They were the Terrini, the Corella, and surprisingly, a group of Pelori journalists who had been moved by Kira's report. The Commerce Union was angry. They sent out messages calling Do-yun a terrorist. They said he had stolen property. They offered a reward for his capture. But it was too late. The story was too powerful. On distant worlds, people started to talk. Not just humans, everyone. "Did you see what that human did? He fought for children that were not even his blood. He broke 3 ribs and kept running. The old one died standing. He did not run. What kind of species would do this?" The answer spread across the galaxy like fire. Humans. Humans did this. In the great halls of the Commerce Union, leaders met to discuss the problem. They were worried, not about one human, but about what his actions meant. "If humans resist," one leader said, "others might follow." "Then we must crush them," another said, "make an example." But a third leader, older and wiser, shook his head. "You cannot crush something like this. This human showed the galaxy something true about his species. You can kill him, but you cannot kill what he represents." "What does he represent?" The old leader thought for a moment. "Hope," he said finally. "He represents hope, the idea that even one small person can stand against injustice. If we make him a villain, we make ourselves the monsters in this story." The room was quiet. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, in the darkness of space, Sunwoo's ship flew toward the outer reaches. They had been traveling for 3 days. The children were tired and scared, but they were alive. Do-yun's wounds were healing slowly, thanks to Bora's care. Sunwoo came to the cargo hold one night when everyone was sleeping. He held a small screen in his hand. His face was strange, like he had seen something impossible. "You need to look at this," he said quietly. Do-yun took the screen. He saw his own face looking back at him. The video was playing. He watched himself running, fighting, falling, getting up again. He watched Junho die. He watched the children reach the ship. "Where did this come from?" he asked. "Everywhere," Sunwoo said. "It is everywhere. Every station, every planet, every corner of the network. Someone recorded everything and sent it out. You are famous, Do-yun. The whole galaxy knows your name." Do-yun did not know what to say. He had not wanted this. He had just wanted to save his children. "There is more," Sunwoo said. "Look at the comments, look at the reactions." Do-yun scrolled through the screen. Messages from thousands of people, from millions, from species he had never heard of. "This human is a hero. Humanity is stronger than we knew. I want to help. How can I help? The Commerce Union is wrong. We must stop them." Do-yun felt tears in his eyes. He had thought he was alone. He had thought he was just one small man against the entire galaxy. But now he saw that he was not alone at all. Bora walked over and looked at the screen. She read some of the messages. A small smile crossed her tired face. "You started something," she said. "Something big." "I did not mean to," Do-yun said. "Sometimes the biggest changes come from people who did not plan them," Bora said. "You just did what felt right, what felt human, and the galaxy saw." Over the next weeks, things continued to change. Underground networks formed on many stations. People began smuggling orphans away from the Commerce Union. They called themselves the Chain Breakers, and they used Junho's last stand as their symbol, an old man standing alone against an army. Human communities everywhere started refusing to comply with the decree. Some were punished, some were arrested, but for everyone that fell, 3 more stood up. Other species joined the resistance too. The Terrini sent ships to help transport refugees. The Corella offered their worlds as safe places for orphans. Even some members of the Pelori government began quietly supporting the movement. The Commerce Union tried to stop it all. They sent the Veth to many worlds. They arrested leaders and destroyed ships, but they could not destroy the idea. Because the idea was simple: children are not property, families are not things to be bought and sold. Love is stronger than law. And that idea, once planted in the hearts of billions, could not be removed. Do-yun did not know any of this as the ship continued its journey. He only knew that his children were safe, that Junho had died a hero, and that somewhere ahead, a new life waited for them. But when he finally saw what his actions had created, he understood something important. One person can make a difference. One moment of courage can light a fire that spreads across the stars. He had broken chains not just for his own children, but for children everywhere. And the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months had passed since the escape from Velar 9. The ship New Busan floated in the quiet darkness of the outer reaches, far from the control of the Commerce Union. It was a large vessel, almost like a small city in space. Thousands of humans lived there, people who had left the controlled stations to build their own free community. And among them now were 17 new citizens. Do-yun stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. His body had healed, though he still walked with a slight limp from his injuries. The scars on his neck and arms had faded but never completely disappeared. He would carry them forever, reminders of that terrible night. But he was alive, and so were his children. The sound of running feet made him turn. Little Minyu came racing toward him with a big smile on his face. He was holding a drawing he had made, colorful lines and shapes on a piece of paper. "Look," Minyu said excitedly, "I drew our family." Do-yun took the paper and studied it carefully. There were stick figures of all sizes, 17 children and 1 adult in the middle. Above them, Minyu had drawn stars and a ship that looked like New Busan. "It is beautiful," Do-yun said. He picked up the boy and held him close. "You are a good artist." Minyu laughed and hugged him. He did not cry at night anymore. He did not call for a mother he could not remember. He had found his home. Yuna appeared at the door of the observation deck. She was taller now, growing into a young woman. She had started training to become a medic. Every day she studied hard, learning how to heal wounds and treat sickness. "Bora wants to see you," she said. "She has news." Do-yun put Minyu down and ruffled his hair. "Go play with the others. I will be back soon." He followed Yuna through the corridors of New Busan. The ship was alive with activity. People working, children playing, families living their lives. No one here was afraid of being sold. No one here worried that the Veth would come in the night. Bora had set up a small workshop in one section of the ship. She had stayed with them after the escape, finding purpose in building a new life. Her tired eyes were brighter now. She smiled more often. "I have been monitoring the Galactic Network," she said when Do-yun entered. "The Commerce Union made an announcement today." Do-yun felt his body tense. What kind of announcement? Bora turned her screen toward him. On it was the symbol of the Commerce Union and text in the common language. "The decree is repealed," Bora said. "They are canceling the orphan labor program." Do-yun read the words 3 times to make sure he understood. Repealed. Cancelled. The decree that would have taken his children, the law that would have sold them as workers, was gone. "Why?" he asked. "They do not care about orphans. They do not care about doing the right thing." "No," Bora agreed. "They care about order, and the decree was creating too much disorder, too many protests, too much resistance. It was becoming more expensive to enforce the law than to simply remove it." Do-yun thought about this. It was not a perfect victory. The Commerce Union had not changed its heart. It had only changed its strategy. But still, the result was the same. Orphan children across the galaxy were safer now. "The chain breakers are celebrating," Bora continued. They are using this as proof that resistance works. Many new people are joining the movement. Do-yun nodded slowly. He thought about old Junho, dying alone in that corridor so that they could escape. He thought about all the people who had helped them, who had risked everything for children they did not know. It was worth it, he said quietly. Everything we went through, it was worth it. That evening, there was a celebration on New Busan. People gathered in the central area to eat and drink and share stories. Music played, real human music that reminded everyone of Earth and home. The children were there too, all 17 of them. They ran and played and laughed. Tiho, who used to be so quiet, was leading a game for the younger ones. His nightmares had stopped. He had finally learned to smile again. Hana was singing. Her voice floated above the noise of the crowd, clear and pure. She sang old songs that her mother had taught her, songs about home and love and hope. People stopped what they were doing just to listen. Sunwoo arrived late, as usual. He had been away for weeks, running supplies and information for the Resistance Network. His ship was faster than ever, thanks to the modifications Do-yun had made. The word is spreading, Sunwoo told Do-yun as they stood together watching the celebration. Everywhere I go, people know your name. They know what you did. I only did what any father would do, Do-yun said. That is the thing, Sunwoo said. Not everyone would do it. Most species in this galaxy would have given up. They would have accepted the decree. They would have let their children go, but you did not. And that makes you different. That makes humans different. Do-yun looked at his children dancing in the crowd. Yuna was teaching Minyu some simple steps. They were laughing together. Maybe we are different, Do-yun said, but I think that difference is a good thing. Later that night, when the celebration was ending and the children were getting tired, Do-yun gathered them all on the observation deck. This was something he did every week, a family meeting under the stars. The children sat in a circle around him. Yuna and Tiho, Hana and Minyu, and 13 others, each one precious, each one saved from a terrible fate. 1 year ago today, Do-yun said, we left Velar 9. Some of you remember that night. Some of you were too young, but all of you are here now because of the sacrifices that were made. He thought of Junho. He always thought of Junho. A brave man gave his life so we could escape, Do-yun continued. His name was Junho. He was old and sick, and he knew he did not have long to live, but he chose to spend his last moments fighting for you, for all of you. The children were quiet. Even the youngest ones understood the importance of these words. I want you to remember him, Do-yun said, not just today but always, and I want you to understand what he taught us. One person can make a difference. One act of courage can change everything. Yuna raised her hand. Is that why you fought the Veth, even though you could not win? Do-yun smiled at her. I did not fight to win. I fought to give you time to run. Every second mattered. Every moment was precious. And in the end, those seconds were enough. Little Minyu climbed into Do-yun's lap. Are we safe now? He asked. It was the same question he had asked on the night of the escape. This time, Do-yun could give a different answer. Yes, he said. We are safe now, and we are together, and we are family. The children smiled. Some of them hugged each other. Some of them looked out at the stars with wonder in their eyes. Do-yun held Minyu close and looked at the universe stretching endlessly before them. Somewhere out there, the Commerce Union still ruled with cold efficiency. Somewhere out there, people still suffered under unjust laws. But here on this ship, 17 children were free. They would grow up strong and kind. They would remember what was done for them, and one day they would do the same for others. The galaxy had learned something about humans. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest or the smartest. They could not see in the dark like the Veth. They could not calculate like the machines of the Polari. But they loved their children with a fire that could not be put out. And that love made them dangerous, made them beautiful, made them human. Do-hyun looked down at Minyu, who had fallen asleep in his arms. He looked at Yuna, who was watching the stars with dreams in her eyes. He looked at all of them, his family, bound not by blood but by something stronger. Family is what humans never give up, he whispered to himself. It was a simple truth, but it was the most powerful truth he knew. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the story continued to spread, from star to star, from world to world, inspiring others to stand up, to fight back, to protect those who could not protect themselves. The chains were breaking everywhere, and it had all started with one father who refused to let go.